All hail to you, Mother Nature. Blessings to you for your consistency, Mother Nature. Don't you, uh, don't you love it when, there is this consistency, this surety. Now, I know it is like all of our lives, every morning, it's like the sun comes up, it never fails. Ooh, and if y'all could have seen that moon last night. Now, I went to bed like about, I think the Browns had like 5 minutes to go. I don't know. But the last thing I have to do before I go to bed is I got to put on footies, y'all, because the weather is changing. The last thing that I do is I let the dogs out, and who let the dogs out? Oof, oof, roof. I know. But the last thing I do is I let the dogs out, and so the moon and the sky was beautiful. But I went to bed probably with 5 minutes to go in the Browns game, and 5 minutes could take 20 minutes in a game. And so I was like unsure well, they were ahead. So I was like, but they were ahead on Sunday. So I went to bed and I heard fireworks. They woke me up and I was like, there are probably people who don't even know what the fireworks were about. But how about those Browns, y'all? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It was, and I slept last night. I slept. I don't know if if you've been watching all week, you know that I was in turmoil. I had some stuff that happened on Monday, and I was feeling it. I was in a space where I was hurt, angry, felt betrayed, a number of things. And I had a chance to talk to my friend Catherine, and it reassured me that I wasn't crazy, I wasn't insane, it wasn't just me. And so I kept putting it off, dealing with it because I don't want to like to respond out of anger. I want to respond out of a place of love, but at the same time, I want to be, I don't like pussyfooting either. Y'all know that. If you watch me, I am not a person that like dances around stuff. I don't pussyfoot. And so there was a part of me that I wanted to, strike a good balance. And so finally I needed to get, how you've got, I don't know if you do this, but I've got a weight on me. And the only way to get that weight off of me is to take it off of me, right? Which meant that I needed to address it. You guys, sitting around and suffering in silence is, but let me feel this. Sitting around and suffering in silence creates toxicity in you, in your body. It's like having, you're not moving the energy that comes to you. And I say that everything that comes to you for you. It is a growth. It's a growth experience. And I don't care what situation you're in, right? When I was younger, I was raped, right? And I could look at it and I could, be stuck in the idea of victim mode, or I can say, now what with this, right? And I believe that everything that happens to us comes to us with that now what, right? This, this is what is. This is what happened. Now what? What do you do with this? How do you transform it so that it does not transform you in a negative kind of way? How do you take this? Because all things that happen for our good, right? Good morning, Ruth. Fabulous Friday. Yes, it is. Yes, darling. I am so grateful for you and your consistency and all of that stuff. Fabulous Friday to you, Ruth. So all things that happen to us come to us for our good, right? Regardless of how it looks. This morning, oh my Course in Miracles lessons were so good. It is but myself that I crucify, right? When I think I'm doing something to somebody else, it is really, I'm doing it to me. And so I don't seek to ever be mean or you know, like have ill intent towards anyone. But there is this thing, there's a book I was thinking to grab, but I'm going to just tell you, in essence, what it says. There is this thing in this book, and it says that there are certain things that augur other events. And so when I looked up this word augur, I was like, augur, that's not a normal word to be used. But one of the things that I found is that when you encounter certain things in your life, sometimes it can be certain people. It ushers in some kind of shift or change. The radio show I've been doing on WOVU was called, and I'm talking about it in the past tense, it's called Shift Happens. And what I say to people is when you get one new idea, one new thought, a shift can happen because it can totally change your whole world around. And so there are certain events or people or situations that usher or that come in and they bring with them change. And there is a part of us that doesn't like change, right? Most of us don't like change. We hold like, oh, we want to be anchored in a spot. We want to anchor ourselves so that we don't, that we're not changed by something. But to change is to grow, and to not change is to not grow. And so there are certain things that happen to us, and they happen to us because they are supposed to happen to us. And so not to be not to be mean or anything like that, but sometimes we need reality checks. We need to, yes, we need that. I know that, I'm always talking about this: be bold, be free, be truthful, stand up. I'm always talking about it, and I wonder if the spot is on my eye. I sit here, you see me every day cleaning my glasses because I don't like to see spots. And then it just dawned on me, wonder if the spot is in my eye instead of on these glasses. There's something right in here. So to, let me get another. I got a bunch of these things. Here's the thing. We don't happen by accident. If you are in the room, or if you are the person that somebody runs into, know that it is not by accident. It's by divine appointment. And when you refuse to show up in your fullness, you are cheating them. Can you imagine if if something were to happen, right? Oh, I'm a seeing Sandra. And then Sandra goes in the room and Sandra pussyfoots. What is God gonna do? Say, damn it, I gotta send somebody else for this. I thought she was gonna be the one that stepped up to the plate because that is her MO. And so sometimes that is the reason why we are sent there, because you know it is for us to show up in who we are in our fullness in that moment. And when we try to, sometimes we're always trying to, this is what we do for babies, right? If I want to give, if people do used to do this all the time, I always saw it. People would, if they want to get a baby a French fry, right? They put it in their mouth and they chew it up and get all the sharp edges off of it. And then they give it to their baby. Well, you ain't a baby no more, right? And if you are turning around all the time trying to give people, chew it up and make it softer and more palatable, they never get to the point where they can accept what is, what is. So it becomes our responsibility to show up in the moment, and then to know that this too grows you. And growth, I say it all the time because, I talk about the teachers that I know. I talk about the things that I learned. If it's comfortable, you're not growing. If it's not stretching you, then you are not growing. And they used to kill the messenger, say don't kill the messenger. That's why, that's why they tell you don't kill the messenger, right? Because it's not about the messenger. It may hurt, it may not feel good, but it is a necessary message. So I got some stuff up off of me yesterday. And I have prayed about it. And I tried to the best of my ability to speak my truth and be loving. And yet, and still, and I know people are not always going to agree or like what you got to say, but yet and still, now I'm the mean one because I respond. So it's, it's all good. It's all good. And to know that it is but myself that I crucify. It is but myself that I crucify. What am I taking in? Right? If something is missing, it's always what I failed to bring. What am I taking in? Am I taking in love? Am I, regardless of how it may feel, right? What was my intent in what I shared? I was talking about, I don't know when it was it a few days ago, that to teach is to learn, because you learn what you teach. But also the process of teaching is the process of loving. It is because I desire for you better. Let me tell you this. Now, sure enough, there's a way to do everything, right? There is a way to do everything. There's a way to do everything. And so, but you can't help how people perceive what you do or how they hear what you do. Somebody can tell you, I'm gonna give y'all the perfect example because this happened to me. This is my real story. I was when I was back in WJMO back in that was back in the 90s, right? I was on WJMO and I was doing this talk show, and I would prepare like for hours for this. It was funny because that was a time when I had to prepare. I would, like kind of write out ideas and everything like that. And I would write these ideas out and then I would say, okay, I'm gonna get on there and I'm gonna expound on this. Now, I literally, my show was maybe a half an hour. And people would talk about me because I was then just like I am now. I would have people, I had somebody that I used to have people that come in and sat in the studio with me. They weren't talking or active, but the people who were on the air didn't know that I had somebody in there that would sit in there with me for whatever reason. And most of the time, though, I was by myself. There would be some young folks in the booth because they worked the booth and everything like that. But anyway, I was one of those folks that I could go in, and I went in when I first started doing this because it was a call-in show. You expect to have callers. And people who would go in and they would have a show that was based on callers would sometimes sit there and give out the phone number 20 times, like 578-1490, 578-1490, 216-578-1490. Give me a call what you thought about the Browns. If relationships didn't work, or the Browns didn't work, or something else didn't work, they were always 216-578-1490, right? That was what they would say all day long, right? And I was determined not to be that person. I didn't want it to be that I would sit there and have my show be based on whether or not somebody called or not. There were people who called all the time because that was what it seemed like they sat at home and did. They talked about the Ebola virus, or they had some other kind of something that they wanted to talk about, but they would call in all day long on other people's shows to talk about something that may not have been even what they were talking about. They had a set agenda. So anyway, I would go in and I would go in prepared, and usually I can tell you how I process ideas, right? This is my processing. I take a regular piece of paper, and I fold it in half. And then I start writing like I'm writing a book. And then I write on this side and I turn it on that side. And then I get my second sheet of paper if I need to, fold it in half and write just like that. I literally could have reams of these around the house, or I started filing them in file cabinets. They won't make sense to anybody else because I'm not writing total ideas. I'm just writing stuff that I want to remember or to bring back up. Well, anyway, I would go in, and a lot of times I would be sure my show was a call-in show. It was a live show. I would go in and do the show. But you know what? I did not give out that phone number, but people would call anyway. And when they called, it was like a disruption in my flow. So I really preferred not to take callers. I would ask whoever answered the phone in the booth, put the name up on the screen. They would write it on this dry erase board, put the name up there so I could decide if I want to interrupt my flow to answer the call. And anyway, so one particular day I go in, and the show that was following me, I do believe, might have been Skip Brown, but the show that was following me, they called and said that they couldn't make it for whatever reason. And I mean, it was like, as I was getting up to walk out, they said, "Oh, Skip called in, he can't make it. Can you do his show?" I sat back down, and it was like, without even thinking about anything, it was like, oh, I do just like I'm doing now. It's like, and then it's like, okay, half an hour goes by, that's done. And if you needed me to talk for another, it's just, that's always been my sweet point, that I can talk. So anyway, one particular day I had this guy that came in, and I was doing my show and I took callers, whatever. I had people that were calling in and they wanted to say something. And so I answered the phone. I took callers. And after I got finished doing the show, This brother says to me, woo, you had some really great callers. Okay, so somebody might, we hear things, and all of us hear things differently, right? It may have been that he was saying, oh, you did a really great job, but those callers, added to it. Or it could have been that he was saying, whoo, good thing you had callers, because otherwise that would have sucked, you know? And so sometimes we have to realize that we take ourselves into every conversation. And the conversation might be something that is totally generic. Somebody might say whatever. I don't even know. Somebody might say, "Oh, that's a gorgeous shirt," or that dress is sharp. And you look at them and think, like, wait, are you? Is it the dress or is it me? Like, if this girl had on this dress, would it be the dress or would it be me? So we take ourselves into, and we hear according to who we are. And so a lot of times when people talk about whether or not you are harsh or mean or had some kind of ill intent, it's based on them and their ability to hear. Now, another person's criticism, or like, say, for instance, a person's dislike may not have anything to do with who you are and how you show up. It's who they are, right? We see the world not as it is, but as we are. And so we will bring out the things that are wonderful and all that. So for example, somebody called me about Sunday's game, and she was going on and on about how terrible that game was. And I was like, that was a good game. It was just the last 2 minutes that sucked, right? Or the last 5 minutes that sucked. But otherwise, it was a good game. Last night's game was a good game. And we won, right? So it's not just the outcome, but it's, those guys get paid for running up and down the field with a football. And they do that because it's sports, and they know that it is entertaining to people. It engages us, right? It is, my one dog, the one that can hear, it hears. And if I go, whoo, it jumps. I mean, it's like, if I clap, the dog like, ah. And so it's really interesting because we get engaged in stuff. We get enraptured by stuff. And so it is, all of this is our stuff. They do what they do to get us actively, like there's an emotional involvement. Sometimes that's the only time that people let themselves give into these things of emotion, like elation and all of that stuff. I see people who seem like they are numb. They move through the world numb. And there's a question about, why so numb? We can ask that question, but then if all of a sudden when sports come on, they have that, that up and down and that visceral reaction. Oh my gosh, so good, so good, so good. It almost like it revitalizes sometimes for some folks, right? Some people will see the same thing and they get mad and they get bent out of shape. But there is a thing of, how do we celebrate all of this in life and realize that, that we are multifaceted beings. We can experience these highs and lows and not be diminished by them. And so with this response to the letter that I sent, or the report that I sent yesterday, what came of it is she sent me back a thing saying I was mean for no reason. That was what I got back. And I sat in that because I sit in that energy. It is but myself that I crucify. What was my intent? Was my intent at all to be mean? Wasn't even about her. I was explaining a situation, and a situation that that we only see as we are. We only see it from one perspective, and not necessarily the fullness of what can be there. If I go to, when I went to that repast, my girlfriend Crystal's repast, right? They had it, not a repast, but a memorial thing, right? They had it at Burntwood Tavern. And so they were serving food, and it was, they had, you could order cash bar or whatever. And the place was nice. But say, for instance, I go in and I'm a vegetarian. Crystal was vegetarian. Her son is vegan. I go in and I look at the food, and some people might be like, oh, darn, they got sirloin, and they got that kind of chicken, and they got those kind of potatoes, and they got this, and that people were like, oh, at the buffet that they had set out, all I could see was meat, 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 meat. It's my perspective, because I don't eat that stuff. So for me, everybody else may have been oohing and ahhing, and I'm thinking like, damn, don't they know that they got vegetarians up in this mug? Don't I mean, I get it, but what you see depends on who you are. So so for me, I'm like, okay, so I am relegated to asparagus, and if I go down here and I get a whole plate of asparagus, so I get full. I mean, because sometimes here's what people do. They do this trying to be, I don't know what, nice. They'll make macaroni and cheese and put bacon in it, or they will make a salad and put chicken in there. Or they'll make all of this stuff, and then they put the meat right in it, that ensures that the vegetarians don't have any options available. So while you may think that you're doing all of this amazing stuff, there's other people like, why put bacon in potatoes? I mean, I'm just saying, it Hey, Kim, good morning. Good morning. It's good to see you, darling. I haven't seen, look, I know are you still in Cincinnati? But the Browns girl, it was good last night. But it's based on, we see things based on who we are and what we bring to a particular situation. So you will always have people that will perceive what you do, what you say, how you show up. They will perceive things differently based on who they are. Does it mean that just because we define it in one way that it is truly that way? I prayed over my response. I prayed over that stuff. And I was willing and saying to God, show me what I'm to do here. And so when I show up, then I'm being mean. But maybe here's the thing. Maybe that was for her growth as well as it was for mine. Maybe, just maybe, the intent that I had was not mean to be mean at all. But because now there is this encounter, if if before I birthed and before she birthed, or as she birthed, because I'm older than her, as she birthed, God says, you know what? I need to put her in touch with Sandra Bishop somewhere along the line, because everybody else may be lowballing, but maybe what she needs is to have this encounter so that it brings something else out of her. Yes, in Cincinnati, the Bengals. Okay, love you too. It's been ages though, so blessings, and deep bow to you. But um, so these encounters, hopefully what they do is, instead of looking at them like this person meant us bad, because I started off talking about I was raped earlier in life, and for me, I could have looked at that like going through my life with that as something that was hanging over me, or something that shaped who I was. But it was something that I used as a springboard, because I needed to heal from that. I needed to not have somebody, a hanger on in my energy field. So I needed to say, this had to be for me, because God means for me good. God means for each and every one of us the highest and best good. It is always about our growth, about our development. It is love, right? And if you don't see the love, look, clean your glasses. Get this, get all of the gunk out that inhibits your ability to see clearly. Because clearly, if you don't see love, you haven't looked long enough. You gotta stay with it. So be willing to be transformed, right? Be willing to have your mind changed. God, help me see this as you see it. Help me see my sister as you see her. Right. And so if we are just stuck in, oh, those were really good callers, or or if we're stuck in how we define what happened, then we haven't allowed that transformation to take place. And so that, I think, is the real aim of growth. Like, even with our parents, right? Even with the butt whoopings you got, right? Or the beat downs, or the mental gymnastics that you've gone through, right? If you don't see the love, then you haven't looked long enough. You haven't let go of the places that you are holding on to that makes it about you. And so yesterday, while I was talking to Dr. Brown, one of the things that I remembered, the quote that I remembered and said to him is that Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem at the same level at which you created the problem, or your thinking saw that there was a problem. There has to be a transformation. There has to be a transcendence to happen. So, I would say, in prayer, like, God, help me, help me to see the love, help me to see this as you see it. Right. And so when I'm willing to get a different perspective, one comes. And then, and then it's not to like, that's not what that meant. Is to, oh, is that what I'm supposed to see? Well, let me turn this over a little bit so I can look at it differently. Good morning, Sandra. How are you today? Y'all know that I can only see you if you type a comment into the thing. Otherwise, I don't know that you are here. I don't know. I see other people that are able to see who shows up. And I think I can do that on a phone or some type of device, but it does not work that way on my computer. So So when I say good morning, it's just because y'all typed something into the window. And so good morning, Sandra. So ah yeah. Yeah, okay. So that thought was, Sandra, we are October 21st, the weekend of October 21st is the day that we are setting up for the class reunion stuff. So there, period. So if we are to allow like some room, create some space so that a transformation can happen, that means, we start asking questions about it, right? So if I talk about how my mother used to beat my butt, great, right? I used to get some good whoopings up from my mother and my dad. And so my mother be talking, I told you, or, she go through the whole, whatever it was. But for me, I saw the love in what she was doing, right? I saw that she wanted it. First off, my mother used to say, because at a certain age, they didn't believe in whooping girls anymore. They didn't believe in giving us whoopings anymore after a certain age. And I guess maybe they got tired. I don't know. Maybe it was because they were aging too. I don't know. But she would say often that I was hard to punish because I was so self-contained. If I tell her she's got to stay in her room, she's up there and she's happy by herself. If I tell her she can't talk on the phone or watch the thing, I was so content with me that there was nothing that she could do that was punishing. So the time out, I'm gonna sit in the corner and I'm gonna meditate. Why did that just bother her so, right? But the point of it is not that. The point of it is that I had to step back and I had to really think about my mother's younger experience. That she used to talk about the beatings and the whoopings that she would get at the hands of her grandparents because her mother had left to work in the city. And she identified herself as an abused child, an abused child that was abandoned until she was a teenager, almost. And so if I bring that to the table, right? And a lot of times we don't look at, if we're mad or angry at our parents for the things that they do, we don't look at them in the context of what they had been through. We only look at it in the context of what we are going through or have gone through. And so sometimes creating space helps us to see, like if when I ask for, the gift of insight into something, then what it does is it takes me to a place of trying to see a little girl who doesn't understand why my mommy don't want me. Why, she says she's got to go and work, but I don't eat that much, or I won't eat. I just, I mean it. Oh, y'all, I'm not crying today, so don't even wait on it. I'm not doing that today. But we have to sit in the possibility that what we are thinking is not all there is to a situation. How do I back up so that I might see more clearly? Because when you're up on things, whatever that may mean, if you up on it, you can't even see it. I not from this close, right? Even as we get older, we got to hold it out at an arm's length so that we can look at it and truly see. I mean, that's got to be metaphoric for how we have to be in life, is to create some kind of distance or some kind of space so that we can actually see the things that are occurring. So, you know, if we are just, if you're dead set on being right all the time, that, you know, that's cool, but where's the growth in that, right? And if you are right all the time, then maybe you haven't been exposed to enough, right? Maybe what you need to do is find people who are not like you, who don't think like you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. Yeah. So is sometimes I have to recognize that I gotta have conversation and listen to people that don't perceive things in the same regard that I do. I I don't need to, and trust me, the things that I talk about on here is for your consideration, not because I want you to be like me or another me. Gosh, I got this. I got this. But consider consider how you may be blocking your own good or your own awareness by staying in the I know it. I know I'm right. And I know what their intentions are. We don't know what people's intentions are. We think we do, but no, we don't. As a matter of fact, we don't even know if they had any intentions. When I was talking to the woman from Pose, the trans woman that was here, and I put her picture in my timeline. She was talking about the reason why she seemed so reserved and so timid was because she could never trust a person's intention. And I was like, I ain't got no intention. I don't have an intention. My only intention is to be present and have um a authentic conversation. Because what I know is that when people show up, sometimes you get these juicy nuggets that are so freaking good that it's like, oh, it's a shift that happens. And sometimes it's, you know, just being able to sit there and wait on it or to see it when it happens. Ah, that's so good. So these encounters, it's in A Course in Miracles, it says every encounter is a holy encounter, right? It can be an encounter that is ordained to occur. And if you don't show up in it, now all of a sudden we got to make some adjustments. So let me tell y'all about a story I shared here, and it's been probably, I don't know, what, a year, 2 years ago. Yeah, it's been a few years ago because it was before the pandemic started or before I got my dog. One night, Sunday night, I was headed home because I go over to a friend of mine's house every Sunday for dinner. And so I'm headed home, and I'm on, for those of you who know about Cleveland, I was pulling on to Chagrin. And for those of you who don't, I was just pulling onto the street. I was coming out of a parking lot, pulling onto a street. Now, my home is west. And so all I need to do is turn right and go west. And I go west for maybe about a mile and a half. Then I turn and go south. So on this particular day, though, you know, it's getting a little nippy. It's probably about this time of year. It's getting a little nippy out. And you know, so I'm tired though, and I want to go home. So I pull, and I'm about to pull out onto Chagrin, and something said, no, go down this other street, go down Scottsdale. I was like, I don't want to go down Scottsdale. That's what I said. I don't want to go down Scottsdale. Scottsdale is not a main street. Scottsdale is a street that every block almost has a stop sign at it. And so you got to drive, stop, drive, stop. drive, stop. I didn't want to go down to Scottsdale. And that's what I was like, thought in my mind. I don't want to go down to Scottsdale. And so in Chagrin, I mean, I could flow down Chagrin. It's a main street. I could flow down there. So I was like, I don't want to go down Scottsdale. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I always tell people that something is another name for God. But when something speaks to you, you don't always recognize, oh, this is God. Something said, go down Scottsdale. And I was like, I don't want to go down Scottsdale. It's got too many damn stop signs. So I pull out onto Chagrin and I get right to this street, first light I come to, and it says again, go down Scottsdale. And I was like, I don't want to go down Scottsdale as I'm sitting there at the light. And then it says to me, this is what it says. If you go down Scottsdale, you can stop by the post office, check the post office box, and then go down Scottsdale, and you will have killed two birds with one stone. And I thought, that's a good idea. So I turned and I go to the post office. I check my mailbox. I don't know if there was something in there or not, but now I come right out at Scottsdale and I start down Scottsdale. I'm going in the same direction. It's a parallel street to the one that I was trying to go down to, but now I got to do the stop signs. So now that I feel content that I've done something and I've accomplished a task that was on my to-do list by going by the post office, there is this like ease about it. And I'm just cruising down Scottsdale, and I cruise down Scottsdale. I come to stop sign, stop sign, stop sign. I'm going, so now I go past another main street, and I'm thinking to myself, why was I supposed to go down Scottsdale? I'm almost to the street where I need to turn at anyway. And as I'm coming, all of a sudden out of the corner of my eye, I see something. And it looked like a ghost, right? That's what I thought. I said, it looked like a ghost. I stopped. I pressed on the brake, and I look over my shoulder, and I put the car in reverse, and I pull back, and there is a woman standing there, and she's holding on to a tree. She's an old woman, and she's got on a white nightgown, white footies, and her hair, which is white, is blowing in the wind, and she's holding on to the tree. And I said, ma'am, this is, it's not stupid. I said, ma'am, are you waiting on somebody? And she heard me because she turned her head in my direction, but she didn't make eye contact. So I thought, oh, okay. That's the deal. Here's somebody probably with Alzheimer's. I was just, you know how you make the split second thing of assessing the situation. So now I pull a little ways out of the street. I take the keys out of the car, and I get out, and I said, ma'am, I said, where do you live? She's still not making eye contact, but as I approach her, I'm standing in front of her. She reaches out to me. Okay, I got her. No, what happens first? No, she did. It wasn't her reaching out to me first. I go to the house that she's standing in front of because she was holding on to the tree, and I boom, boom, boom on the door like the popo, boom, 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 boom. And I run back to her because now I'm thinking, let me get her off of this white grass. Now, nobody comes to the door, but as I go back to her to get her off of the grass, I'm thinking to myself, let me just sit her down somewhere because she seems unsteady. And she turns and she puts her arms on mine, like you would do like this, like I was a walker or something. And I feel her weight come on me. So now it's like, okay, let's go towards the porch. I just need to get her someplace. So now I'm walking her up the walk, And when I'm thinking that I'm about to get her to sit on the steps, she turns to go to the driveway. And I'm like, okay, we're going towards the driveway. So now we get to the driveway, and then she turns to go towards the door. Okay, this must be her house, right? So now I'm at the door again. Bam, 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 on the side door as hard as I could. It's like 11 something at night. So there's not people. I don't know whose car that is, y'all. So there's not people outside, but I'm like, this has got to be your house, and the door is locked. And so I'm like thinking to myself, okay, I left my phone in the car. I didn't want to call the police anyway, but I got to get this woman someplace. I was thinking, do I go back? Do I let her stand here up against the wall and go back and get something, a jacket or something out of the car to wrap her up with? I'm banging. So finally, I see a light that comes on the landing up there, and the windows are up high on the house, right? And so when I see the light come on, I stepped back, and I'm back like this. And this woman says, "Who is it?" Now, she's an old woman too. She looked like she had to be, I don't know, in her late 60s, but this lady that I was holding had to be 90, right? Who is it? And I was like, it don't make it, for me to say it's Sandra was like, she don't know me, right? Why would she answer the door? I was like, is this your mother? And she was like, what? I said, is this your mother? Now she's got a security door, because I got an iron security door too. She's got a security door, and then she's got an inside door. So she's in no danger. Is this your mother? And she was like, she comes down and she unlocks the door. And when she opens the door and sees me holding this old woman, she screamed, ah, what are you doing out there? And so she got her mother into the house. I left. I didn't, I was like, she was telling me, I just put her in the bed. That's what she said. I just put her in the bed. Okay. I got her in the house, right? I didn't go into the house. I didn't step inside of the house. I just handed her off. And then I got back in my car and I drove off. By the time I got to the light was just, just a couple hundred feet. I got to the light, and that was when it hit me, and I boo-hooed. I was like, here I was saying, I don't want to go down that street, right? I don't want to go down that street. And even as I'm on the street, I'm like sitting up there saying, wait, I could have went down to this far and then turned. I didn't want to go down this street. And it hit me that I was supposed to go down the street, that when a prayer is uttered, dispatch is made, right? I don't know if the woman herself uttered the prayer or if it was one of her kids that was saying, God, watch over my mother. But there is a dispatch that is made. And that dispatch meant that I had an appointment to make. Now, could you imagine if I drove right past her? God would be like, who else is in the area? What else do I need to do to make this happen? So if you don't show up when you are dispatched, if you don't show up, then what? So we, at every point, this wonderful presence has our highest and best good in mind. And all we need to do is show up and do our part. I don't know how long that woman, I don't know if she walked outside when I pulled out of the thing. I don't know if she walked outside when I went in the post office. I don't know if she had been outside for a couple of hours. I don't know the story that happened before I got there. But what I realized is it wasn't an accident that I got there. It wasn't an accident that it was me. Somebody else might have drove past and not seen her, or somebody else might have drove past and called the police, or somebody else might have, whatever the case may be. It was my appointment. And I'm so glad that I was able to step up. Sometimes those appointments look different. Sometimes it is a chance encounter in a grocery store. Sometimes it's one that you have with your kids. Sometimes it's one that you have in different arenas, but we got to show up. Y'all, we got to show up in our fullness and do what it is that we do. And sometimes people will perceive it as, oh, and let me say, I know I told y'all I walked away, but I think maybe this was on a Sunday night. And I think on Wednesday, I just went back by the house. I went over there and I knocked on the door, and just to see that the woman was okay. And I'm not crying. I am not crying, y'all. It's time for me to go. But the woman who the woman's daughter, she opened the door, and when she saw me, she came out and she just hugged me and she cried, and she talked about what could have happened had I not come along. And she went in there and she was like talking to her mom, "Ma, this is your angel." She was going through all of that, She called her brother. Her brother lives in, I don't know, Texas or somewhere. And he was planning on flying home after this incident because they were so concerned about, the fact that she might wander off and what else they needed to do to make sure that that didn't happen again. And he wanted to thank me and tell me how grateful he was for me stopping. It was like like I told them, I was thankful. I was thankful because I saw, and I mean, and this is not the first time that this has happened or something like this has happened, but when you see prayer in action, when you hear the voice of God, when you follow instructions, when you are used in a way and it really, it helps. Not only it helps to understand how it all works, how it works together, but it also helps us to recommit to showing up. So when something tells you, when something says, go here, or something says, speak to that person, or something says, respond, right? Follow your guidance. Y'all, it's Friday. It's time for me to go. Yeah, I don't know any of I don't even know any of that, Kim, but I know that I was grateful. I was grateful for the fact that I was able to help. Tracy say, "Oh my God, when spirit talks to us, wonderful things happen. It never ceases to amaze me, the things I get or how I was positioned to help someone when I am told to do something." Isn't it beautiful? And so this idea, that's why I always talk about, people have this idea of this, the God in the sky that is, sitting up in judgment and all of that stuff. And it's such a limiting belief. It's such a limiting small idea about God and how God works. And if we don't know that, it's only when we expand, like give it some space and step back and try to see the allness, that God uses anything and everything to communicate. God can even send a grasshopper to send us a message. But when you think about getting an expanded perception of it, as and I don't even know to say that it's the very fabric of the universe that ties everything together, and that when there is a disruption someplace, that it calls for us for energy, attention, attention goes where energy flows, or full, energy follows thought, however you want to say it. But that woman was in need, and it was, who can I use? Who can I use to make this situation right? God, God just needs us to be the hands and the feet, the people that show up. Our blessings come through other people. It sometimes it is, if there was nobody else out there, maybe an angel that was disembodied would have shown up. People talk about how, a car fell on somebody, or somebody was struggling, and a presence showed up, or a presence stepped in. Who knows how that works? But that it works, right? So we got to just stay, stay in that energy. Use me, God. Show me what, and even when somebody calls you mean for how you show up, trust and believe that there is a purpose and a plan that's bigger than what that is. Because I intended love. I intended love, not hate, not fear. I intended love. And so we'll let it be what it is. And hopefully we'll see it all work out, because it's going to work out for the highest and best good. Yeah, it's kind of like playing a game of cards, or Jenga, right? You don't know what you're gonna pull out. Sometimes it'll topple the whole thing, and it's the process of putting it back together. We see this going on in our society today, and I don't know about y'all, but I got to mess up to clean up. As a matter of fact, my desk looks relatively neat today, but I gotta pull stuff out and then put it back right, and so the process can be messy, and we're in the process. So yeah, it's time for me to go. I love and adore you all. Thank you so much for being here. Blessings. If this blessed you, you can either drop some change in my Sandra Said It, either at PayPal or at Cash App, and Cash App, Zelle too. Or just share the video, and both, whatever. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate it. Yvonne Pointer shared my video yesterday. I was like, wow, I'm so excited. And Catherine, I don't know if you're watching, but those browns. I was just talking about the fireworks and everything that I heard going off last night. It was so, I was asleep. I went to sleep at about maybe about 10:30 or something like that. But it was so good to have that reassurance that we won. So whatever the case may be, have an amazing Friday. I'll be here tomorrow, 7:50ish, probably 8 o'clock, but 7:50 is my goal. And tomorrow is free flow Saturday. But I haven't talked about the book all week, so yeah, but I'll be here. So I'll see you. And on yeah, it was a good game. And on Sundays at 1. So blessings to y'all, and I'll see you soon. But keep in mind, you may be somebody's angel today. Listen.